It should be no ancient Chinese secret at this point that video game movies haven't even had an okay track record, let alone the best. But lately, I've noticed that tone was changing since the release of Defective Pikachu, and now, going by the reviews, it seems like the 2020 Sonic movie is joining the ranks of good video game movies. Needless to say, I had my doubts. I had only seen the initial reveal trailer and the one that came immediately after that, and a few of the jokes did get a chuckle out of me, but I initially predicted that the movie was just going to be okay. I did say that I wasn't a fan of Sonic's redesign, but I eventually warmed up to it, and now I just think it's alright. Still not amazing like everyone says, but serviceable. I'll take it over Defective Pikachu any day. Seriously, you people think this looks cute? From the second trailer up until the release of the movie, I made the conscious decision to avoid any more trailers so I wouldn't be potentially spoiled from any of the other highlights that the movie may have had to offer, and now here I am telling you what I thought of it. Now, keep in mind that this is coming from someone who not only dislikes Sonic games, but doesn't even really watch movies, so I don't know the first thing about good storytelling or character development. I made 4 videos about this movie beforehand, and I remember saying it would only be fair if I actually went and saw it myself, and I did just that. I believe I should also stress that I went into this movie assuming that this was an entirely original version of Sonic. Like, you know how there's versions like Boom Sonic and Adventure Sonic and such? Well, this is Movie Sonic, the one with 2 eyeballs. So anyway, let's start with, in my opinion, the best part of the whole movie, the intro. It opens with Sonic as a kid, which was, admittedly, pretty adorable, running through, I assume, Green Hill Zone? I don't know, all Sonic says is that it's his home world. The majority of the movie takes place on Earth in a town called Green Hills, so I'm just gonna call this place Mobius to avoid confusion. And yes, it still looks beautiful. Sonic was under the care of an owl named Longclaw, who I'm not familiar with. Archie comic, cartoon show, that bird from Kingdom Valley, I don't know. I did, however, like that the Echidna tribe made an appearance. That was actually really cool. It turns out that they want Sonic's super speed power for themselves, so they try to kill him? Okay. Longclaw helps Sonic escape by sending him through a ring into another world, which is Earth. As you might have guessed from the promotional material, these rings do just that when you think of a place to go and then throw one to open it to that place. And that's what kicks off the rest of the movie. Okay, one nitpick I forgot to put in. Longclaw was hit by an arrow from the Echidna tribe, but about 6 seconds later, she just gets up like nothing ever happened. And you can't tell me, oh, it just hit the breastplate, because you could clearly see the arrow sticking out of her before it just mysteriously disappears in the next shot. And if I'm supposed to believe the arrow just fell out of her while she was crash landing, why isn't there any blood coming from where she was hit? I mean, I know they were trying to keep a PG rating here, but that's no excuse to break consistency. What they could have done instead was make it so that one of the echidnas used a slingshot and hit her with a stone instead. That way you could still show her in pain, if not the bruise itself. Okay, that's all. When I look at this, I just can't help but think what the movie would have been like if the whole thing took place in Mobius. Imagine what the story could have been like. Sonic and Longclaw look for the Chaos Emeralds or something, with the Echidna tribe and the Chieftain as the antagonists. Maybe Tikal could be secretly helping Sonic or something? I don't know. But regardless, it did leave me with a good feeling that maybe the rest of the movie would really be as good as people say. Only to be met with another generic cartoon character meets real world movie that we've seen time and time again. I don't get this. Whenever we ask, what would it be like if insert fictional character here was transported into our world, we're mostly met with the answer, they would make friends with a human character, look for something important, be involved in shenanigans together, bonding over time, then something happens to make them hate each other out of nowhere, then have a change of heart at the end and live happily ever after together. I know I probably should have figured that out much earlier on, but I didn't because I'm from North America. But when the movie got to the point where Sonic just started bitching to Tom, being all like, "Oh no, you're moving up in the world and you're about to leave all the people you care about for a chance to make even more money than your current salary to support your family while making even more friends and meeting more people that you'll get to care about in the long term. You're a monster!" That's when it hit me like a bullet to the temple, and I was all like, oh god, is this really one of those movies? And it was. So Sonic in this movie has this inner conflict about being alone because he has to live in a different world without being discovered by anyone because they might not take to his kind. I find it strange that he would just out of nowhere have this mental breakdown on the baseball field at this point so late in his, I assume, teenage years. I think what would have made more sense is if Sonic was still a kid when this happened, because at that time, Sonic still wasn't used to being alone. It wouldn't make as much sense now because it's much more likely that he's desensitized to it. Isolation can drive someone crazy. What would have really helped was if we knew more about his backstory. Like maybe if we saw Longclaw teaching him how to survive by himself, or if he had any friends growing up. All we know is that he was told to keep a secret, but didn't, and now he's here. There were a handful of jokes that I thought were pretty good, emphasis on handful. The child in the bag one is still the best one. I honestly kind of wish it wasn't shown in any of the trailers. The flossing thing didn't really bother me, probably because I'm a boomer, but I do know there are plenty of people who had a problem with it, which is understandable. Yes, he only did it twice, but for some people it may have just been 2 times too many. Everyone has a breaking point. Some of the action scenes look pretty cool, although I wasn't particularly a fan of the slow-mo scene during the bar fight. Oh yeah, there's no chaos control in this movie. Hell, there aren't even any chaos emeralds at all. In fact, there were a lot of times I questioned the consistency of his speed and time flow around him, especially during the final action sequence. James Marsden as Tom turned out to be a more energetic character than I thought. Not great though, I do think there were a couple of missed opportunities for good jokes as well as some that didn't really land, but yeah, he was alright. Jim Carrey was... Jim Carrey. I legit forgot that he was supposed to be Dr. Robotnik. It wasn't until Sonic dropped the Eggman name when that occurred to me. That's really all I can say about him, it's just... Jim Carrey. Yes, he makes for a good real-life cartoon character, but he really doesn't act all that different from past characters like Count Olaf or Ace Ventura. But instead of being a creepy uncle or a bonkers pet detective, now he's a mad scientist. And they can all only be described as... There was one scene that I thought was interesting. It was when Robotnik gave a small piece of his backstory talking about how intelligent he became when he was at a very young age and how he dealt with the bully at his school. I thought that was a nice tidbit to have in there. Now I'm curious to see a Robotnik origin movie of sorts. Oh yeah, and the Robotnik scene from the end of the reveal trailer that everyone thought was going to be the post-credits scene. Well, it's not exactly, but it is the final scene of the movie before the credits started rolling, so yeah, we were close. There is a post-credits scene, which I won't spoil, but it's clearly setting up for a sequel, which at this point this movie will clearly be getting now. Overall, it wasn't terrible, but it could have been so much better. Not helping is that the movie was bookended by the 2 best parts. It started on Mobius and ended with Robotnik in, I assume, Mushroom Valley Zone? I don't know, Sonic calls it Mushroomville, but regardless, they both took place in 2 large fictitious worlds that felt like great set pieces that a Sonic movie could have taken place in. And everything in between was just a movie that you could have seen in something like Hop or the live-action Smurfs. So what makes this movie so special? Why does such a formulaic story work when the fictitious CG character can run fast? Well, I do have a hypothesis. I normally don't like assuming things, but I can't help but think that there's something deeper going on here, something that we don't even know is influencing our opinions, so let's take a look. I think one reason this movie got an overwhelming amount of positive reviews is because there isn't really a large selection of good video game movies to go around. Therefore, making a paint-by-numbers movie using a video game IP was not just the safest move, but the smartest one, and as it turns out, it worked. Maybe a couple years down the line after all the hype has died down and we see more video game movies using the same formula because it works so damn well here, people will look back at this one and think to themselves, wow, maybe this movie wasn't all that good after all. I think another factor is that a lot of people took into consideration what was going on behind the scenes and were afraid of saying it was anything less than good. If they did, they would run the risk of being ostracized by a grand majority. Not helping is the fact that virtually everyone was clamoring that Sonic's redesign saved the movie when the second trailer was released, so they kinda put themselves in a position where they couldn't say the movie wasn't good because then they would just end up looking like hypocrites if they did. It's actually pretty genius when you think about it. They already said it was gonna suck the first time, and then they punched their I was wrong card the second time, and now they can't take it back.
Groupthink's a hell of a drug.
Look, I think it was a good thing for them to listen to the outrage of the reveal trailer and then delay the movie for a few months to redesign Sonic, and I'm sorry that everyone who animated the movie had to leave when the studio was shut down right afterwards, and I do hope that they have found or will find greener pastures. But I'm not gonna let that guilt me into saying that the movie is better than it actually is, because that just wouldn't be fair. Time and effort does not equate to quality. I mean, look no further than the reception to my near-hour-long Sonic video. Movies should be praised for the final product itself, not everything around it. Sure, there are some good things in the movie, but I cannot in good faith say that the movie as a whole was good. At best, I can only say that it's okay, like I predicted, and at worst, it was bad. I don't think I'm in an intellectual position to be able to settle for one or the other, so I'm not even going to give it a final score. All I can say is that I didn't like it. I don't regret seeing it per se, but boy do I regret paying $10 for the ticket. And can we please stop comparing everything to the live-action Super Mario Bros. Movie that was fucking decades ago?